I don't want to go deaf before we even start today. Yay! Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay. I love how we're both hesitant to put the headphones on because we know that crackle when you hit the record button.
It's not about...
I'm wondering if anybody else has that issue or if they just do what we do, just hit the record button
just
and then
smart
pause.
enough to turn it on before we start.
So welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Storytelling on the Plains. Oh, look, I can't proofread there. I got my T over with the other word for two. Today we're going to talk about a more recent resident of western Nebraska, and I think your mom might have known her. We'll find out because maybe she'll listen to it and tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll text me.
I'd be interested in knowing.
Okay. She still has not replied from last Monday. I texted her when I was all sick, asking for some advice. Oh, well, there's my phone. Sorry, guys.
It's a fun ringtone. Very, very exciting there for a second.
Yes. That ringtone is from Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
And so the whole point of that video game is to be as stealthy as possible. That's what happens when the bad guys hit. So there's that alert sound.
Oh.
And then if you don't hide right away, then that music goes off. And you know that the bad guys are trying to find you and you have to go hide somewhere.
I'm not sure how I feel about that as a ringtone. Might condition you wrong. Goes off, you hide in the bushes. It's like, what's wrong? I'm sorry, I have a phone call.
And when the text message goes off, it's that alert sound. Mm-hmm. And it used to scare our media editor at the Star Herald. So there you go. You just kind of heard it there.
Metal Gear Solid fan.
And it would terrify her. I'd be sitting there at my desk and, a text would go off while I'm writing a story, but I could just kind of glance up and you could see her just completely shake.
Poor thing.
She'd be like, "Damn it, Irene." I'm like, "I'm sorry. Didn't mean to." But see here on your text, a single check mark means that it went through.
Yeah.
Double means that it's at her account, and then when it's filled, it means you read it.
Yep.
And so she's still on the single. I don't know why. But I texted her.
That is weird.
For some advice, and everybody else. Everybody else is my two family members. They're like, go to the ER. Okay, so.
I need to probably tell her, it's like, hey, make sure you check your signal. Because no one else, I think, for her, uses it but you and me.
Oh.
And it's more you because I just text her or call her.
Oh, okay.
So as far as signal goes, yeah, because I think I have you and maybe 2 or 3 other of my buddies on signal, and that's it. But I always have my alerts on.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to get people over to Signal, particularly my nephew, because I'd like to get off WhatsApp.
I think it's a good app.
Yeah.
I like Signal.
I absolutely love Signal, to the point that as soon as my mom's estate and everything is done and sorted, I was planning on giving a donation, because I've been using it since the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And about 2 years ago, Signal stopped using SMS, one of the two. Anyway, because it's really, really hard to encrypt that stuff. And Google Messages uses RCS, and RCS is secure, but they have not opened it up for other applications to use yet. So you know me, I'm trying to get off of all Google stuff, and I've had to go back to Google Messages because the program I was using that uses MMS or SMS, I would send a text to our family group chat, and half the time the texts don't go through. Or it would go through to one family member but not the other one. So I'm like, I have to go back to it. I don't have a choice. So as soon as Google opens that up and Signal can do that, I'll just go back to using just straight signal again, and try and get the folks that I know to go. So anyway, we are going to talk about Nanci Paetow, and forgive me if I pronounced her name incorrectly, but she was a long-time police officer here in the area, which is why I thought your mom might know her.
She very well could have heard of her.
She retired in. We're jumping way ahead of ourselves here, but she retired in 2008.
Okay, so she would have had to have known her. She would have been around.
Yeah. I'm sure your mom did know of her, and when I was writing this episode, I was going to text your mom and ask, and then I got sick, and I was just like, I need to get this written for this week. I don't have time to get anecdotes from other cops. So anyway, that's who we're going to talk about today on Storytelling on the Plains. So Nanci Ann Davidson Paetow was born on June 24th, 1952 in Lincoln, Nebraska to parents, sorry, my brain's not awake yet today, Morris Lee and Janet Elizabeth Davidson. So Morris Lee was called Dick. I don't know where you get Morris Lee Davidson. Where's the nickname Dick come from? Because if his name was Richard, okay, Dick is a common nickname for Richard, but I've never heard of Morris or Lee that way.
You got me there.
So a little tidbit about the English language there that I don't know about. She spent her early years as an Air Force brat living in California and a variety of other locations where her father was stationed. She moved to Nebraska permanently in 1973, where a new job would change her life. In January 1975, Nanci joined the Scottsbluff Police Department as a dispatcher for about 10 months. And I have talked to some of the older folks in town, and they would tell me all kinds of things like there were no women police officers, and at this time there were no women police officers. So I don't know if this story that I've been told was Nanci in particular, but they told me that they would go grab dispatchers and secretaries when they would arrest a female, because in order to
do the searches,
the searches, they needed a woman.
That is true, and that often actually was what my mom did.
Okay.
Even sometimes we would just be randomly shopping. It's like, I gotta go for 5 minutes, and we all knew what it was. To pat someone down, she'd be right back.
Yeah.
It was like, but she's the only female.
Yeah.
And you have to do it.
Yeah.
So she'd go down there, pat them down, say the yes, no's, what's ups, and then come back. Most of the time she wouldn't even be in uniform. She'd have her badge and her gun, and that's it.
She'd
just be in standard civilian clothing, pat them down. It's like, whatever.
Yep. And I had the Ray Richards, what was his title? He Director of Communications when he retired. He told me, and Sheriff, oh my God, who's the sheriff right now? I could see his face again. Mark Overman.
I was like, I don't know who the sheriff is now.
So
I know who it used to be.
So both Ray and Mark have, and I think Jim Lawler, who was a police officer at many departments in the county. I've had several people tell me that they would have to grab a female that worked somehow in the department to do those kind of things. So I wonder if, Nanci has passed on, but I wonder if she had done those things in that 10 months as a dispatcher. And I read that she transitioned into the position of a patrol officer, but her obituary says she was promoted. They're both sort of the same but different.
Well, at least my mom was around, because my mom started out as, I believe she did a prison guard dispatch and then police.
Okay.
I think it was in that order. I could be wrong, but was she promoted? Not necessarily. You have to apply for the job.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, Was it a promotion back then? I mean, maybe they just asked her. It's like, hey, you've been here long enough, and we need somebody.
Yeah. Do you want to go be a cop?
Do you want to be a cop?
We'll send you to training. Yeah. So, and you could also use promoted in just the sense that a patrol officer is a higher position in the police department than a dispatch. Although ranking wise, I would say it gets confusing because to me, all the jobs are equal. They're all equal. They're all important. But are they thinking of promotion in that way, that it's a step up?
Well, I don't know how dispatch worked in 1975 or how the police were structured. But when I was a kid, the dispatch office was connected to the sheriff's office, not to Scottsbluff itself or to Gering PD itself.
Okay.
So you had Scottsbluff PD, Gering PD, and the sheriff's office, is what you have now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all their different organizations. They all have their different jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. So if she was promoted to the Scottsbluff Police Department, but the dispatchers were still technically the sheriff's domain, then she probably wasn't promoted. She probably applied for
was transition into a new role.
Or someone took her by the shoulder and was like, hey, want a job?
Yeah.
Which again, in 1975, that's perfectly logical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my mom at that time was only 9 years old, so she wasn't around enough to really tell me one way or another.
So when she became a patrol officer, she was the first female police officer west of Kearney. And so here's a fun fact. When I went to the University of Nebraska, I graduated in December of 92 and started working for UNLPD in January of 93. I actually worked with the first female police officer in the state. She worked at UNLPD, and she did her entire career there. Also, I know this isn't true on every campus, but at UNL, the UNL police officers are actually state deputy sheriffs. They're just separate and assigned to the university. Yeah.
Well, it's such a large campus, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I actually worked with that lady, and I can see her face to this day. Can't remember what her name is. I'm sure we can look up in the history books, and her name will pop up, and I'll be like, oh, yeah. So there's a little neat connection there. And then I lasted for 2 years and didn't want to do that job anymore.
It's hard. It's a hard job.
Yeah.
It takes us definitely a special kind of person to do it year after year after year after year after year.
And I was a community service officer under the UNLPD. We had all the same authority as the cops. We didn't carry a gun and we couldn't arrest anyone, but we just had to get on the walkie-talkie and be like, hey, you need to come get Connor.
Yeah. And boy, was summer break must have been fun for you.
Yeah, it's lovely sitting in the entranceway to a dorm that is closed and just sitting there for your 16-hour shift. And this is it's not pre-internet because I was on the internet then, but nobody I knew was on the internet. And you literally just sat there for your 16-hour shift. It sucked. Summer sucked. But I was asked several times to please step up and go to the police academy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I've got enough of a taste of it. I don't want to do this.
And my mom, it's kind of interesting how she kind of got into the police academy because she was a cop, got more or less promoted, I believe, as chief of police already, and still had not gone to the academy. So she was technically already the chief of military and hadn't even gone to the academy. I thought that was kind of interesting. But the academy, the police academy, isn't anything like it is now. Now you actually have to have a college degree to even be.
Oh, really?
I believe so. I think you have to have an associate's degree in some sort of criminal law, something like that. I don't think, or you have to have been in the military. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can just go willy-nilly like my mom did.
Oh, okay.
My mom basically, the mayor told her, it's like, you got to go train. And, my mom, I think, was only hesitant because she maybe herself didn't know if she needed more education versus just police training. And no, they let her in.
Nice.
And she passed and came back, and and then she was chief for quite a bit of time after that. So yeah.
Okay.
But the academy nowadays is much, much different.
It's definitely more structured.
Yeah. They vet a bit more, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
You probably just shouldn't be letting anybody into the police academy, given what we've seen just in the movies. Police academy.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want those guys to be your.
I'd
cops.
take Michael Winslow though. Just for the sound effects.
I was like, is it just for the sounds?
It's just for the sound effects. He would be the funnest cop ever.
Oh gosh. So in an interview with the Scottsbluff Star-Herald newspaper, Nanci said she didn't really have any issues with male police officers, but did remember a few things from other people, including a commentator for the local radio station. And that was one of my first thoughts as well. As we're talking 1975. She started as a cop, and you and I are both well aware that those kind of people are still in the department. It's just not the entire department is made up of those people. It's now one or two of those kind of people slip through that think only men should be cops.
Yeah. I hope the position has changed. Even when I was young, my mom was rare. Even she was one of two, I believe, cops that were out here. So yeah, after but now I believe the chief of police in Scottsbluff is a female.
Just got promoted. Yep.
Yeah, and that's really amazing. Yeah. So we finally have another chief who's a female other than my mom.
Yeah, there you go.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So according to the article, Nanci was quoted as, "There were people who thought that I should be at home in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant."
Why did they have to be barefoot and pregnant? When you're pregnant, you're not allowed to wear shoes.
Yeah. I've never understood that one either. Why can you not have shoes? Because you're probably going to send that in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant woman to the grocery store, and she needs shoes. So I've never understood that, unless it's just another dignity thing where you're. I
think
don't know.
It's 1975. I think the Flintstones were around about this time, and that sounds like a Flintstone statement. Oh, and the
Flintstones were 50s, 60s, 70s. Yeah.
You should be in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant, washing the dishes with your elephant thing.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, Connor, what do I have on my feet right now? Nothing.
Well, but neither do I.
Neither do you. So, like most people inside their houses take their shoes off.
And you know what? I don't, and I need to. I have wood floors, so it's not like carpet really gets in or something. But me and my husband are terrible of going from the front to the back to the back to the front to the front to the back to just do things. Mm-hmm. And man, you still have traffic that we do, and we have so much dust.
Yeah.
We really need to do. We need to make it a rule in society in general. I don't mind Japan's idea of you have to. It's just like take them off. Like it's not a good thing.
The only thing I would disagree with that kind of thing is take them off inside, because I've been many places in the world, including where I grew up in New York. I don't want to leave my shoes outside overnight.
Did you do that in Hong Kong? Did you leave them outside?
I think they do. But we were just in the hotel, and when we went inside our room, we just kicked our shoes off as soon as we went in. And if you notice, when you go to hotels, there's usually that little bit of some kind of linoleum hard floor before you get to the carpet part of your hotel room.
Yeah, in Japan, usually it's like a step, like it's built down into the ground, and so there's like a little raise. So I think that's a helpful reminder. It's like, oh crap, I'm in a different area now, so take off your shoes. So.
Yeah, and in New York it also gets cold. Do you want to leave your house in the morning and have literally frozen shoes?
Japan gets pretty cold, and they do it throughout the country. And North Japan is frigid.
I want to know, and do they have like little slots they put the shoes in, or do they have old traditional enclosed porch?
Most of the times I see it's basically like a foyer.
Okay.
And they just have like, it's not a foyer that's closed in by walls, but that's what I was talking about, the inset on like it'll be like a square foyer kind of inset into the ground, and then you step out of it. That's usually how it is.
Okay. So if that's what they're doing, they got it figured out so the shoes aren't cold in the morning. So anyway, we'll get back to Nanci here.
We're getting back to Nanci, getting off of bare feet
and pregnant. Yeah.
Taking off her shoes.
When I came across men in the field, there were those who strongly believed that you don't hit women, so I didn't have any trouble. And with that sentence, when I was in high school, so this is 1975, I was in high school 84 to 88. I think it was 85, 86. I was in high school. Anyway, a friend of mine that was in marching band with me came up and he's like, can you walk me to classes today? Okay, why? Well, his girlfriend brought a gun to school. And this was a huge deal. It turned out to be a flare gun, but still gun.
I would be pretty scared of getting shot by a flare gun.
Yeah. So she had her birthday party the Saturday before, so this was Monday morning. He walks in on her cheating on him. So he broke up with her, and she snapped. This young lady also disappeared for about 4 or 5 months. Our guess, because no one ever talked about it, our guess is she went to a facility somewhere because, okay, get mad that you got caught cheating on your boyfriend, but you don't bring a gun to school on Monday to kill him. And today I would immediately turn her in, but I spent 1st through 5th period going to and from classes with him, going, dude, you need to turn her in. You need to turn her in. You need to turn her in. Today, I would just go and turn her in. Yeah. But we didn't. This,
by the way, was before Columbine.
Yeah, way before.
This is
yeah. So we didn't have any of that, training. We weren't brought up with school shootings and stuff. So my thought was, it's your now ex-girlfriend. You need to go turn her in. You need to do the right thing and turn her in. And he was just thinking, I'm scared. I don't want to get shot. And for whatever reason, he thought I was the one that could save him. So,
yes.
Okay.
Well, if she pulls out a gun, what do you think I'm going to do?
Yeah.
It's like, here's your man.
He's right there.
He's right there. Don't shoot me.
But he did during lunch. He went downstairs to the principal's office and turned her in, and they found a flare gun in her locker. And it wasn't even a deal where the school's evacuated, notes go out to parents, nothing like that happened, because she brought the gun to shoot him with, not the whole school. And that's just how you did things in 1985. Yeah. So, yeah.
But to the point of... Was the idea behind his head that because you don't hit women, even women don't hit other women, and that's why he'll be safe?
No. He was brought up to not hit women. So even if she
he couldn't defend himself.
Yes, and I told him, I said, dude, except for I said his name. I'm just trying to keep names out of this. I go, dude, you can hit her. If a girl is pointing a gun at you, you can hit her. He's like, no, I can't. But I know you can, and I know you can fight. And in 8th grade, I had been in a fairly large fight, so yes, I could fight. So he picked me because I could punch her, I guess, and take the gun away. I don't know. Didn't have any training.
I guess that rule wasn't exactly taught by my family. For one, I was raised by 2 sisters, so that wouldn't have gotten me very far.
Right.
My sisters bit. They weren't like the punchy people. They were like the people that latch onto you, claw you, and gouge your eyes out kind of people. So if you needed to kind of back off, and the back off turned out to be more of a punch than a shove, is pretty forgivable.
Yeah. And I was just taught to be respectful to others and fight back if you felt in danger.
Yeah, I mean, in society, no, you were taught. I guess I wasn't taught not to. It's just it was something that never came up to do. Girls weren't mean to me.
Yeah.
It was all the guys. Girls were actually, like, growing up, I really don't remember any girls specifically, like, just picking a fight with me. Just like every day she's just after me. I never had that problem.
Yeah.
Most of the girls were girls. I had cooties. I was
Yeah, 'cause you were a boy.
I was a silent weird kid, and I didn't, they just left me alone. So.
Yeah. So I guess Nanci had that experience too. We can't hit women, so she.
That would have been interesting as a cop.
Yeah, absolutely use that to your advantage.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think that worked with my mom. Maybe it did. No, I bet mom had a few stories where that was probably exactly the case. It's like, crap, they brought Kim. Crap, can't do shit. Oh, might as well just cuff me.
We should bring her here one day and have her be a live guest rather than
I've
the dead ones
her
we
many
do.
times.
I'll
She's listening right now. Right now. She knows.
Yes, she knows we're recording right now and is somehow listening. There are bugs in my house. She was a cop. She might still have some bugs, and there's bugs in my house. Anyway, so Nanci said, but there were others, and I tell them, yeah, you are big and strong, and you can probably take me. But remember, I'll have 3 or 4 other officers following close behind. So yeah, okay, I'm a girl, but you got to deal with these other 4 guys that show up.
Yeah, and even in the 70s, I don't know if I would want to F with any cop.
No.
This was not a lot of accountability back then.
Yeah.
More of a bang bang, shoot him up, you're dead. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But he's dead.
So Nanci understood very well. Different people have different strengths, which can be combined together to create a more effective workplace. And she had mentioned this briefly as well, that we all had different things we could do that help to make things better. Just like you and I playing off of each other. We have different strengths for different things for the podcast to make it work. So Bob Kinsey, who was Nanci's friend and former supervisor, had some advice for her at the time, back in 1975. Women were still making inroads into the male-dominated profession, and he didn't see a need for her to prove she belonged just because she was a woman. So already here in 1975, you got a dude that's her supervisor, who eventually became her friend, that is like, you don't need to prove yourself. Mm-hmm. Which is good, because
it's good even if it's a lie.
Yeah. Because
that's very nice of you, Mr. Penis, to tell me that.
Yeah.
That I don't have to prove myself as if you know anything about it. But yeah, sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the sentiments.
Yeah. But at least he was thinking ahead of his time. Whether
he was trying to be nice. He
was.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't get too hard on him. But I just think that if I was a woman, I might roll my eyes a little bit.
Yeah. I to this day, 2025, so this is 50 years later, I still roll my eyes at things that some guys say, and I'm like, really? I'm not a...
Yeah, it's like, you don't have to do this. Not in this day and age. It's 2025. I'm like, okay, if you say so, buddy.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. Or something I am perfectly capable of doing. Oh, let me do that for you.
Yep.
No. If I need help, I'll ask.
Well, you know what really gets me? And I freaking did it. My cousin is pregnant, and I found myself doing it. I'm like, shit, Connie, you're doing it. You're not letting her do what she wants to do because she's pregnant. Not because she's a woman, but because she's pregnant. It's like, let her fucking do it. She can do it. She's doing it right now. It's like, stop it. But they do. But that was ingrained into you, especially pregnant women. You don't let them do nothing. You can hurt the baby.
Yeah. And you're going, we did come from hunter-gatherers. And, I'm sure there were women hunters that hunted when they were pregnant.
I've seen some pregnant women do, like, full-on calisthenics up until the pregnancy.
Yep. Yeah. And that, I actually think that's probably something that happened after the Industrial Revolution, and then just kind of became prominent after World War II. And
that weird sense, like, propriety and all that thing. And,
but we need to get rid of it. But it's also a good thing you recognized that you were doing it, and you changed your behavior.
I did, but without being, rude.
Yeah.
Because, of course, if she, you have to be at the same time, you can't just utterly ignore them.
Yeah.
If they do need your help or if they are struggling, you can at least nicely offer. But
Yes.
if you're turned down, respect being turned down.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a quote from Bob that was from that article when she retired. One thing that I told her, being the first woman, is that she wasn't expected to kick everyone's expletive. That's what the paper wrote. No, kick everyone's ass. But that the career was a team sport. Your fellow officers expect you to back them up, and she proved that she could hold her own. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's pretty much the same in any job that you have. You expect people to back you up, help you out. Just be a team. I hate that phrase, be a team player, but you don't have to say be a team player when you just are. It's not something that comes up when you just do it.
Well, and the police offices is a very military-esque attitude. They have chain of command. Mm-hmm. I don't think people in the Marines, it's like, okay, guys, you ready to be team players? Let's go.
Yeah, it's a little more coarse language than that.
Step 5, but stay as a team, guys. Think of your teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Step 5.
Oh my God, can you imagine Marines yelling, teamwork makes the dream work?
That'd be awesome.
Oh, gosh. So during her long career, she investigated many, many cases. She eventually moved from patrol to investigations, and one of the cases she investigated that stood out most to her was the murder of 3-year-old Adam Gomez in March 1999. Raymond Matta was Adam's mother's boyfriend and was convicted of the crime and is currently on death row. And I went to double check. 2023 is the last time I could find any stories on him when his was it another appeal was denied.
Yeah,
he's never getting out.
I don't know. Were you here yet? By 1999?
No, I came in 2007.
Oh, so you came quite... So I remember this murder very well. Because this one scared the living crap out of the community because they didn't find that it was Raymond Matta right away.
Yeah.
So it was actually, I think, a few weeks of just terror. Because they were trying to play it off. It's like, oh no, he's missing. They played the old kidnap, whatever game.
So here is another connection to this woman, and I didn't know this till I started working on this. The last year I was at the Star-Herald, I wrote a book on the 100th anniversary of the Scottsbluff National Monument. And it's basically a history book about the monument. And I'm trying not to sling mud here, but I was not allowed to go to the unveiling of the book, which angered me. But because I couldn't do that, they planted a tree in eastern Scottsbluff in honor of Adam. Mm-hmm. And I went and I covered that story.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so the way things went down for me at the Star-Herald and the way I was treated there, after we just sit here and talk about teamwork and stuff. Yeah. I was glad to go do this story. There were some folks that raised some money to get the tree, and the city basically provided in-kind services to plant the tree correctly. And his mom moved to Colorado, but she came back up for the tree planting thing. And his mom and all of his relatives that still live around here was like, this was a really nice thing because they didn't know who the person was at first that raised the money to get the tree and get it planted, but they said that that Adam is still remembered these years ago, all these years later, and it was 20 years since his death when the tree was planted.
And I know his mom, at least at the time, there was a large superstition that his mom was involved.
Yeah,
and she got acquitted or got not convicted. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think she was charged either.
I think she ended up being not charged. I don't know what she would innocent. So she wasn't involved, at least according to the investigation. Yeah. But at the time, she had a bigger target on her head than
he
Raymond
did. Yeah. And I can tell you, when people found out I was doing that story, I got the polar opposites of, oh, that's nice that somebody's remember him. That's a terrible thing that happened to him. To people who still think his mother was involved. I have no idea. I didn't live here. I mean,
the same thing. You really have to give it up to Nancy. She was the investigating officer.
Yeah.
If she was the investigator and she felt that she wasn't involved, you'd have to trust her.
So if anyone out there does Nebraska true crime stories, it's not that hard to find information.
No,
you just type in Adam. Yeah. You can probably still talk to people who were involved in it.
And for those who don't know, I was
just gonna.
No. I was gonna say that. I was this crime, this murder was, I believe, one of the first of its kind in the county.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of a crime like this since then.
So, and then I'll let you explain what the crime is. But I just want to let people know this was a first. This is why it was so well publicized.
Yeah. And this is why we don't do a true crime podcast. I just don't have the stomach for this kind of stuff. And
Jay just loves it too. It's hard to listen to sometimes.
It is. And I don't want to produce any of it, but I'm sure there's someone out there that could make a podcast about this. I prefer not to get into the gruesome details of the case, but one of the judges said the gruesome details of the case was caused by Mattaw's extreme depravity. And I'll sum it up as tactfully as I can. Mattaw kidnapped Adam, and I'm going to read from an AP article because parts of Gomez's body were found in a freezer, in a dog food bag, and a dog food bowl at Mattaw's Scottsbluff home. Bone fragments from the boy were recovered from the stomach of Mattaw's dog. At sentencing, District Judge Robert Hippie said Mattaw's preservation of the dismembered boy's skull and flesh set it apart from other cases. Mattaw's actions displayed an attitude with a perverse and macabre purpose, Hippie said in court. Hippie said that it outweighed any mitigating circumstances such as Mattaw's IQ of 85, alcohol dependence, and childhood exposure to abuse. Nanci said of the case, it was one that tears your heart out. And when she retired in 2008, so almost 10 years later, it was still at the forefront of her mind. And so here's another connection for me. I'm on the board at Mediation West, and Judge Hippie was on the board as well till he passed away a few years ago. I also isn't the right word. I am also happy that the judges took into consideration the mitigating circumstances, but said that they were not, a reason to dismiss what he did, essentially.
No,
I have worked, I spent 6 years working in Gearing public schools with special ed students on a wide spectrum. I've worked with a few students whose IQs were between 70 and 75, and the word is still used today. If it's under 70, you're classified medically as mentally retarded. That's not what we use. Generally, we use developmentally disabled. I have worked with several students whose IQs were between 70 and 75. Every single one of them knows that you don't do this. Every single one of them, if they had been around, would have told somebody, Adam's making noise, it bothers me, Adam's not listening to me. They would go to an adult authority figure that they trust for help. None of them would do this. None of them would then take the step to the dog that he did. I also know several alcoholics, and even when they were alcoholics, they would not do this.
No, it's just a difference. Like I said, for the IQ, it's like just because you don't know what a butterfly is, does that mean you grab and pull off its wings? I mean, that's kind of...
Yeah. And I never got into the massive details of the case just because what I do know is gut-wrenching. But and I'm pretty open about it. I am also an adult who was subject to childhood abuse of all kinds. You want to think about it, that, it happened to me. I would never do this to someone. If I got so upset at a person, I walk away. The worst I will do is punch you once, and then I leave.
And even then, probably not a baby.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Oh my God, no. If it was like you, well, Connor, you and I have a different relationship because I can just be like, Connor, knock it the F off. And
I tell everybody the day I get a black eye is probably going to be the day I deserve it.
You deserve it.
I do.
But if I said that to you, you would be like, why? What did I do? And then we would have a conversation, and I wouldn't be upset anymore. But 3-year-old kids do 3-year-old kid things. Yeah. And if you get upset by those kind of things, you need to walk away. Even if it means you leave that kid alone you shouldn't leave the kid alone, but if it means you leave the kid alone to go to the neighbors and say, you need to look after this kid because I want to beat the crap out of it, that's a better decision than what this dude did.
It was. And this, and unfortunately, I know just about everything about this case because I grew up with it. I was 11 years old at the time, but this was something, my mom being a cop, my dad being a paramedic, you knew everything. You knew exactly what happened. And again, I won't go into it either. If you guys want to find out, look it up.
Just do some Google searches.
But it was just horrendous. And then Nanci, if she retired in 2009, 2008, she would have had Heather Guerrero's case too. That happened in Gering, but that would have been another big one that I'm sure she maybe would have gotten asked help for. I don't know. And she was either the lead on that case or helped with it. And I'm wondering as well, in the Heather Guerrero case, maybe the appeal wasn't, because Matta has had so many appeals that he's filed, so maybe that was fresher in her mind because maybe another appeal had just gone through. I would have to go and look through the list of those. And like I say, Heather Guerrero, she probably wasn't directly involved with because she was kidnapped in Gering, not Scottsbluff. So it wasn't technically her jurisdiction. Her body was found out in Lake Minnetonka or out by it. So that was. So
she probably knew about it, and this one was one she was directly involved in.
This is her jurisdiction. Yeah, this actually, the old Gomez house is only a few blocks away from mine.
Really?
I used to know exactly where it is. And I don't think it was. I don't remember if that one was torn down and another one was rebuilt or not. I don't think it was. Because I know the place where Heather Guerrero's body was found, that place was burnt to a pyre. But I thought the Adam Gomez house was torn down. Not burnt down, but torn down. And then another house was put on top. I'd have to ask, though. I don't know.
Okay. It's the same with, that one at the north of town where, now I can't remember, the male and the female were killed, and, they wrote the dude's name in blood. And I can't remember his name. I'll remember when we're done recording.
That must have been gone.
Anyway, that house, that was 91 that I think that one happened. And I know if I say the name, you would probably know the case. But it was just north of Scottsbluff. So if you go to the soccer field and what is that, Fifth Avenue, and just keep heading north, it's up there somewhere. Paul has gone, and the house was either torn down or burned down. I think it was torn down. It's just a empty lot now.
If it was 91, we weren't in Scottsbluff yet in 91.
Oh, okay. So you didn't know. Okay. Dupree, okay. I think that's name. Yeah, it's another gruesome murder. So there you go. If you're listening to this and you do true crime stuff, we just gave you 3 stories. So throughout her career, Nanci was well respected. She was noted for her ability to spot things others couldn't. Kinsey noted that she had a photographic memory, remembered details about people and connections between things. He said she had an uncanny recollection for where people lived and telephone numbers. She was very analytical and she enjoyed linking things together. That's the kind of person you want as a police investigator. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got the personality, the empathy, and then you've got the logical part that works extra well. She was involved in many other cases in the county during her time on the force, and she was also accomplished in many other areas. So because she was the first out here, the Star-Herald had noted there were a lot of firsts in her career. She was the first drug abuse resistance education, or DARE, anti-drug officer, working with youth and also working with a program called GREAT, Gang Resistance Education and Training in Scottsbluff schools. I don't think DARE really works.
No, DARE is completely has been shown not to have been a waste of taxpayers. But to her credit, she didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, nobody did.
Knew that at the time. They really thought they were doing a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. We got kids doing drugs. Mm-hmm. What can we do to counteract that? And
I
that's
think they still have DARE programs.
I think there are still DARE programs, yeah. And so I'm assuming this gang resistance education and training, I'm assuming that's along similar lines.
Yeah, and that didn't work very well either.
Yeah, and until I was doing this, I had never heard of it before. So,
yeah, that again, sounds like an add-on to DARE.
Yeah, it could have been.
It seems like one of the sub-programs of DARE.
But again, you know, they're recognizing a problem and they're trying to fix it. It didn't work, so we moved to something else, and it's the...
And I did it. I did the DARE.
Oh, did you?
I was a DARE kid.
Oh, okay.
It was probably from third grade onward, and my mom might have even been to a couple of them to show, because, you know, they have all the things that you're not supposed to buy to make meth, but they show you anyway.
Yeah. I remember when Chuck Ellie was still a police officer, and I was working down in Gearing, and they gathered everybody in the little auditorium pit thing that they had, and he's got all this stuff, rat poison and all kinds of other stuff laid out, and he gives his little talk about, and his was at least more practical. He's like, look at this lady, look at her 2 years later, look at this guy, look at him 2 years later, went through like 8 different people. Yeah, they were all meth users. And he's like, this is what it does to you in 2 years. And then he showed a video clip of this lady sitting, and she had only been sitting like 15, 20 minutes in the police department. And they're like, oh my God, it was awful. She didn't sit still the whole time. She was moving, she was scratching, she was itching. And he's like, this is what happens to you. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if it was that lady or a different lady, but one of them, he was describing when he walked in the room what she smelled like. And he goes, basically all these ingredients you see here, you combine them together and you make meth. And drain cleaner was one of them too. Mm-hmm. And he goes, what does a drain cleaner do? And the kid's like, oh, I know. And he's like, okay, it cleans your drains. How does it clean your drains? And he gets into the nitty gritty of how it eats all the crap away. Mm-hmm. And he goes, that's in meth. That's what's inside your body. And he could smell, it was basically eating her innards away, and she ended up dying. And she smelled because the drain cleaner was, corrosive to your innards. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have any place to go, so it just stays, and you start to smell. And the kids were just like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you get kids not to do drugs.
But it didn't work. They still turned out to be meth heads. At least a lot of my friends did.
Yeah, there's still quite a few out there.
And it didn't take away the temptation of doing it.
Yeah.
But again, that wasn't the point.
Yeah.
It didn't. That the idea was the shock value.
Yes.
Back in the 90s, that was a whole thing, just like the whole kids in prison. That was another great failed experiment.
The scared straight thing worked on me in one way, but when it came out, I was 14, 15. I'd have to go back and see when it first came out. And yes, when it first came out, it scared the crap out of a lot of kids. But then you keep doing it, and it becomes a joke. So it only works like once or twice. And today it wouldn't work at all because of the internet.
I look back at it and I feel sorry for the kids, and it's just so ridiculous. Just it's straight up abuse. You really think that's going to get these kids out of their mental state? Like, they need help and a hug, and instead you're going to put them with convicts and just get yelled at. And like it was weird. The 90s were weird, guys. The 90s were weird.
Oh, and Scared Straight was 80s. So
was 80s. Yeah.
So
luckily I didn't have to live through too much of the 80s.
Oh, great.
I only had it was the 2 best years of my life.
Okay.
It was the last part of the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But the one thing, and I think it was in Scared Straight, there was a Scared Straight 2 and a couple of offshoots of it.
Oh, yeah.
During one of them. So I hadn't graduated high school yet, because when I got to college, I was offered everything. Pot, coke, X, everything. Yeah. And I did smoke pot in college, and
but you didn't inhale.
No, I fully inhaled, and it was free. When I had to start paying for it, I quit doing pot.
See, that's the kind of drug user I was. It's like, oh yeah, I'll take that. Wait, now I have to pay for it.
Yeah,
let's do this.
Yeah,
I'm poor.
I don't want to pay for it. But in one of those videos, this guy said, "This is what happens when you do too much coke." And he put a handkerchief up one nostril and pulled it out the other, and then started seesawing it. That worked on me. I was offered coke several times my freshman year in college, and I was just like, I like having cartilage in my nose. So like, no.
I wonder if the guy had a bull ring, but
yeah,
because people with large bull rings can do that.
Yeah, I have no idea, but 15, 16-year-old me, I was like, yeah, I don't want my nose to run. And the point was, and if they had done this scientifically, it still would have worked on me. If they sat and explained that when you put coke up your nose, it will eat away at the cartilage till eventually there's holes in it. Mm-hmm. But that was enough of an ill factor. Yeah, sorry. I'm scratching mine now, too. Like, but that was enough for me that I was like, I'm not. I don't want to do that. And then when I was in college, this one girl, Julie, that I knew, and I will use her name because I think there were 4 Julies on my floor.
You don't know which Julie I'm talking about.
It's a common name. I could go into detail about her, but I won't. But other than she never met a drug she didn't like.
You know who you are, Julie.
Yeah. She did tell me, Irene, you shouldn't do anything more than pot. And I was like, well, I wasn't planning on it. Why? And she goes, you got the kind of personality that you could be very violent. Like, thanks. Thank you. She was trying to be nice and help me out, but, that's not how I took it.
Don't take any drugs that aren't going to let you sleep for a few days because you get cranky.
And there was a girl that lived on my floor, and I'm not going to mention her name because it's unique enough that you might know who she is. Anyway, she came home one night, and I just happened to be walking down the hall to go get a drink from the fountain, and her roommate was walking literally like almost behind her, but to the side, and had her hands over this girl's eyes. I'm like, what the hell? She's like, oh, I'll be out in a minute. And this girl's kind of mumbling. I don't know what the heck she was saying. Got her into bed, turned the lights out, told her keep her head covered and she'd be okay, or keep her eyes covered and she'd be okay. She comes back out in the hall. She dropped several hits of acid.
It must have been acid or something psychotropic. Yeah.
And everyone was a wolf with a human body. So like their heads turned into wolves and they were, and she was just absolutely flipping out. And I'm like, well, okay, no to acid. I'm like, no, that's...
Yeah, my acid experience wasn't that bad. It actually was most of them were pretty pleasant.
So I just never had that desire to go farther than pot.
And yeah, given everything that's happened in your life, I wouldn't suggest psychotropic drugs to anybody with any form of PTSD unless they're doing it more right now, like with professional clinical doctors, like that's okay. Like, if you want to do it, and if I encourage you to do it that way if you really want to try it, but don't just down a bunch of mushrooms. Mushrooms are now the thing. It's really, LSD really isn't much of a thing anymore. I mean, it's still around, but honestly in the drug world it's becoming less and less of a thing because of how hard it is to make, and a specific ingredient is almost impossible to get, or you have to manufacture it in a lab, whereas mushrooms are easy to grow in the United States, and and more or less legal. But I've seen people do really bad ideas with mushrooms. There's like, I'm just gonna eat all of this. I'm gonna eat a pound of it. What's the worst that can happen? Well, the first 4 hours you're puking, and then the next 8 hours you're on a really nasty roller coaster ride. It's gonna be up and down and not a lot of fun.
No to mushrooms.
No to mushrooms.
And I've had that discussion with my therapist, and I said, I think what we do works, and I don't think that would help me, that it would probably be worse. And both my doctor and my therapist agree.
Good, yeah.
And my therapist also said that if I ever did want to do pot again, to please smoke it and not do edibles.
Good.
And
it affects you in a different way, but you don't smoke, so that would never
work
for you.
Yeah.
You take one hit and it's like, screw this. And coughing for the next 6 hours.
And just what we do in EMDR, which I'm not going to go into, but it works, and it works really well, and we knew there was a good chance that it wouldn't, because EMDR works well. I'm not going to get into the science of it or the efficacy. Go read the studies. I literally read 20 years of studies before I made the decision to do it. And the short version is, if you have one trauma that caused the PTSD, EMDR is far more successful. If you're someone like me that has multiple traumas, it was like a 50-50 chance that it would even work. And I was very happy that it did work, and then your percentages are still very, very low. But for me, I happened to be in the category, the lower percentage that it actually does work for me. So at least while I'm doing EMDR, I wouldn't even want to go near the drugs to mess that up.
And I've never heard of pot being used by psychologists in sessions. It's usually something of a dampener. And the idea, even with psilocybin treatment through mushrooms, I think you're only supposed to do it like 2 or 3 times. The idea is that you don't do it ever again.
Yeah.
You get your shit straight out, and you're good.
And even the EMDR, my therapist and I actually had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, because I came across something on Reddit where people are doing it on themselves, and I'm like, what the hell? And because the whole point is EMDR takes you into that moment of your trauma, and the therapist is there to guide you back out. And there are times where I think about, if I did this to myself, I can't get myself back out of this. Do it supervised. If you're going to do it with someone who's qualified.
And even in Buddhism, there's stages. At least the Buddhist temple that I went to and studied under, I was a very, very basic meditator.
Okay.
I was not allowed into what's called the Vajrayana meditations, which is one of the last stage. One of those. It comes close to MDR. It comes to a very deep, conscious kind of meditation, and you're doing that kind of stuff. They won't even let you in. They're like, you need to make sure that you are completely straight before you're allowed in those doors. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. No. We're not going to talk to you. We're not going to entertain it, because
it's the whole
they've
right
seen
mind
what goes
thing.
wrong.
Yeah,
it's all about having the right mind, because if you start, it's basically running before you know how to crawl, and you're just going to get yourself in trouble.
And it's even when you do those psychedelics, like you said, you should do it under supervision and not just be like
in the right headspace.
Yeah.
Don't have a trauma happen in your life and take psychotropic drugs. That's bad.
It's not good at all.
From personal experience, that's bad. I made that mistake a few times. Don't do that. It's a bad trip.
And maybe when I'm 100, I'll be like, hey, give me all the drugs. I'm 100. Let me try each one, see what they're like.
That's why Jason and I have our San Pedro cactus growing. It won't be anywhere ready to harvest until we're like 80. And then we're just going to have a massive mescaline trip.
Sweet, because I'll be in my 90s.
There you go.
I'll look you up.
It'll
I'll be like,
for the three of us.
Yeah.
If it lives that long.
Oh, God. Okay, so back to Nanci. This should be storytelling on the plains where your hosts get sidetracked multiple times an episode.
This is getting into like the Howard Stern storytelling on the plains. We started talking about drugs and death and murder and how much the DARE program didn't work.
Yeah. Keep working, though. Try and find something that will... I think there will always be a percentage of the population that will always go and do drugs, but let's make them safer and have people at least informed before they do it.
Well, and define... And come up with better definitions of drugs. Like, I don't know why some of the things that I've seen that we classify as drugs and the things we don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like certain entertainment, certain video games, certain coffees.
And the people who have been in charge, while they are well-meaning, it's always been abstinence. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Whereas one of the things I always liked about the Netherlands when I first went in '94, there's a lot of their stuff is decriminalized. I did see, in Rotterdam and Amsterdam, you will see, addicts out on the street. But they have always taken the stance of people are going to do it. Let's make it as safe as possible. And yes, in the Netherlands, you still have illegal prostitution. But if you go to the red light district in whatever city you're in, because I've walked through a few, you know that those women are as safe as they can be, and some of them have several emergency buttons in their rooms when you go with them. So, but they also have regular medical checkups, and if something happens, they're supported. And that's the attitude of the Dutch of this is going to happen, so let's make people as safe as possible.
Yeah, and more importantly, move on to other bigger issues of the day.
yes, because prostitution and smoking pot,
It's been around for a long time, guys. There's issues of the day that probably need more addressing.
Yeah, so we just need to find a better way to educate folks, and 12-year-old kids are still going to make stupid 12-year-old kid mistakes, but at least give them some information.
Your and I's experience at the shelter taught us that. They're gonna do it, and of course nowadays it's vaping, and vaping it's such a bizarre thing that even I try to wrap my head around, because back in the day it was like cigarettes. Like I used to like snag and steal my friends' cigarettes or something like that.
Yeah.
But even then you couldn't just smoke it. You couldn't just like take a quick little hit. Put it away. It's like you stunk. You had to have perfume and mouthwash and a good ventilated area.
And you would walk in the house. Yeah. And you would still walk in the house. At least at my house, my sister would walk in the house and my mother would be like, where's the cigarettes? I don't know what you're talking about, dude. And she would look at me and I'd be like, you reek. You reek.
You smell like cigarettes, dude.
No matter what you do, you still smell like cigarettes, folks.
As I'm sure I do. I put on deodorant, mouthwash, and everything, and I know I smell like cigarettes. At least stop.
You do a really good job because it only lasts for like a few minutes. Because there were times when we were
smoking in the car.
Yeah, well, there were times at the shelter where you'd step out real quick. We were chatting, and you should have been home, and I'm sure Jason was texting you, going, "Where are you?" And we're just running our mouths at the shelter, and I could smell it when you came back in, but it didn't last. So whatever your thing is,
you planned. Yeah. You had a kid. You had to do this. Yeah. You did not want my mother of all people to discover that you were smoking.
Yeah.
Or my dad, for that matter. You didn't want them to know. Yeah. So you had to be very, very. This is like doing a bank heist every time I would go to smoke a cigarette. Like, okay, here's the time. Here's the location. Here's our stuff. We ready for this?
Yeah.
Now these stupid kids pull out a thing that I think is chapstick, and they're just sucking on it. I'm like, that's not how you use chapstick. I'm like, it's a vape.
It's a vape. Yep. Yeah. Just wait till they get them like a ring, and it looks like a ring, and then the other.
Yeah.
Never mind. Not giving anybody ideas.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
They're small now.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones we confiscated
were big.
Were rather big, but man, now working in the landscaping business because, for some reason, vapors don't understand how to use trash cans. I think that's also a byproduct of vaping. Like, you just don't understand that when you're done, it has to go in the trash.
Yeah.
It's always in the landscape beds. So I find all sorts of interesting ones. I found one that would look like an eyeliner.
Really?
Which is skinny.
Okay.
I mean, it would have completely fooled me if it didn't say what it was. So, ugh.
Ugh. Anyway, back to Nanci.
Back to Nanci. See, we're doing her a homage about making this dare thing a bit more spicier.
Yeah. So Nanci also helped get the Scottsbluff County Crime Stoppers off the ground in 1987, which...
I love the Crime Stoppers. I'll still always remember Scruff McGruff.
Yes.
I know the zip code to Chicago. 69362.
And she also helped with the formulation of the first Neighborhood Watch programs. And those were two big programs when I was a kid. They were new things.
Especially the Neighborhood Watch programs.
Yeah.
I think that was a big help.
Yeah. And she continued to serve as a board member of the Scottsbluff County Crime Stoppers, I think even after she retired. So Nanci retired after 33 years with the Scottsbluff Police Department on March 5th, 2008. During her career, she saw many changes and advancements in technology, particularly in the tools a police officer has to do their job effectively. When she began her career, she didn't have a cell phone, cameras in vehicles, or tasers. Investigative officers also weren't specialized. They just kind of took cases as they came.
Yeah, basically there's not a drug unit or a
child
murder unit.
Yeah. It was just whatever horrific thing came up. You're the next in the rotation, so that's what you do.
And this was still a pretty small town in the 70s. It wasn't very big.
Yeah. So I want to read 2 sentences here about her and give you a sense of why I get aggravated sometimes and why language is important. And I'll let Connor give his thoughts when I'm done reading. So Paetow served a short stint with the Scottsbluff County Attorney's Office as a child support enforcement officer before retiring. She has become a child support enforcement officer for the Scottsbluff County Attorney's Office. Okay, so Connor's furrowed his brow. So the first sentence was from an article about her death. The second sentence is from an article about her retirement. And the one about her retirement continued stating that she was still using her skills in this new role. So I think the commemorative obituary just got the detail wrong. Yeah. And after she retired, she was still tracking down parents and helping to bring child support cases into court. Her skills in interviewing and testifying in court are all benefits. And I think it's just a case of, the first sentence came from the article about the commemorative article about her death. And then the second one was when they interviewed her when she died. So I read those in timeline order. And it seemed like that's what she was doing. She retired, but she's still doing this thing. Mm-hmm. And then the commemorative obituary article about her said she did that for a short while before she retired. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. She did do it, and again, I don't have the time and the resources to track down every question, because it would take me a month to do an episode if I went to track down little tiny things like this.
And that's kind of what it wasn't really necessarily a child support enforcement officer, but after she was done with being a police officer, she did work for a DHHS, which I guess now handles that.
Yeah.
Is the child support enforcement officers are just HHS officers.
Yeah. So she definitely did it. We just don't know if it was shortly before or after she retired. And in the long run, when somebody reads this or hears this 100 years from now, it doesn't matter. It matters that she did it for a while. So her post-police retirement job also afforded her a more normal routine. That was also in the article. So I think she did it after she retired, and she was able to do that and have a regular schedule where, having had parents that were cops and EMTs, you don't necessarily have a regular schedule. And even now, the Scottsbluff PD, I couldn't do it. Even if I wanted to be a cop, I couldn't do it because they do this weird 6-week rotation. So you 6 weekdays, 6 weeks evenings, 6 weeks nights.
And that they do that to condition you, because a lot of the officers here are younger. They're not older. In my mom's day, I almost promise it wasn't like that. Not throughout the board.
Yeah.
I know my mom had to do that.
Yeah.
But again, she was one of the new cops. She wasn't one of the old brass, but yeah, like Lawson never did that.
Yeah.
Like bullshit. or Mel Griggs for that matter, but whatever.
Yeah. So Nancy was 60 years old when she passed on October 22nd, 2012 from natural causes. Her husband Dan and their children, daughter Lindsay, stepdaughter Beth, and stepson Jack, were still living at the time. I honestly did not go in too far to look and see if they were all alive today. I'm assuming they are.
But only 60, that's pretty young.
Yeah,
It's pretty young to pass away at.
And the obituary stated natural causes, so...
Well, the cop's life will kill you.
Yeah.
And my mom is proof of that. She's not dead, but physically, physically
but
it's taken its toll.
Your mom is, 2 years older than me? And look at the difference in career choices.
Yeah.
And that's what it does to you.
It does. It hurts. It hurts you a lot.
Yeah.
And my dad's not much better.
Yeah.
He threw out his back, God, I don't even know how many times.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even, I think, really do much of the paramedic work anymore. He's kind of more of an office hand.
And my mom worked at a psychiatric facility that strictly took care of people with developmental disabilities. And she worked with the elderly folks. For whatever reason, she liked working in the elder care more than the younger folks. And, she had carpal tunnel in both hands from it. Knees, her hip. Yeah. She had lots of physical problems because of the nature of the work. And it's just, that's what happens. It's like, that's why you also see mostly younger roofers. Because by the time you're in your 40s, you can't do it anymore.
Oh, even Jason and I just told you.
Yeah.
Doing the job that we do now, which is pretty, heavy work, landscape working and doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, Jason and I both are closer to 40 than we are to 30 now. So it's getting hard.
Yeah.
It's getting really, really hard.
Yeah.
And you have to take care of yourself.
Yes. And also back then, we didn't really have just, if you want to go to the stereotype, cops eat donuts, and we don't know what kind of diet she had either. And that helps.
I could probably tell you it wasn't great.
Yeah.
Because it's almost impossible unless she was one of those, you'd almost have to think of her as a housewife who makes her own lunch. And does that, but I don't see that. My mom never did that.
Yeah.
My mom had a terrible diet throughout my entire life.
And even my mom, she ate. We were poor, so she ate depending what shift she worked, because she did the day shift for a while, but she loved the night shift. So often she goes to work at 11. She worked 11 to 7. And basically the way the law is, and everyone violates this rule, food is served to the patients. The patients don't eat it. What wasn't eaten would go into the break room. So like they didn't drink their juice box, we didn't have juice boxes then. We had little cans of V8.
Yeah. You don't waste food.
Yeah. They didn't even open their peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Well, that goes in the break room, the apple, the orange, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
That's what my mom ate at work. And I hate to this day, if I make a sandwich, I have to eat it. In all the years I've worked, I will never make a sandwich for my lunch because I'm going to eat it hours later. And it's because I grew up that sandwich was lunch. Mom came to work at 11 o'clock, and when she left the next morning, she brought it home, and it was my lunch the next day. So if I make a PB&J, I have to eat it right now.
Yeah. The freshness of
Yeah. I didn't even like it when she would make me a bologna sandwich in the morning before I went to school, and I took it in my lunchbox. I didn't even like it at lunchtime because it had been sitting so long.
And hospital peanut butter is pretty foul stuff.
Yeah. And I did take lunches occasionally when school lunch was something I absolutely could not stand, and Mom knew I was going to go hungry because we got free lunch.
Yeah.
So it was definitely, if there were 4 things on the tray and there was one thing she knew I wasn't going to eat, I'm still getting lunch. But if it was one of those magic days where all 4 things were something I wasn't going to eat, she would pack me a lunch. But
and I was so lucky. I was so lucky in my elementary school to have 2 very, very good cooks. I mean, I really didn't. There's always, a couple of meals you didn't like because you're a kid, but for the most part, Bonnie and Vicky were just awesome people.
And see, when I went to school, and I'm considerably older than you, but when I went to school, it was still. I mean, they cooked it, but it was still a lot of,
raw stuff.
Yeah. And they would combine it together. But we moved here in 2007. And in August and in May, at the end of that school year, I worked at Cedar Canyon Elementary. They had a cook that had been there 30-some years, and she made everything from scratch every day. So they didn't. You know how you got the little calendar that said this is what's for lunch every day at school? They didn't have that down there because she just came in every day and was like, okay, we're going to have this. And if she made, let's say, too much chili yesterday, well, you're having chili for lunch again today.
Right. Or chili hot dogs. Or
she would change it, and the teachers that had worked out there for a long time, I heard a lot of complaining my first year there because that was the first year that they had the contract, and they basically make the food at the high school, and then it gets trucked everywhere.
Oh, so after this person.
Yeah. And they said they loved that person because every day it was something different, and they loved eating, fresh, nice hot lunch. It was great.
It's all pretty much Sodexo and Tahir now.
Yeah.
Or Opa, they're all major brand corporation foods. They're terrible. They're awful.
And it's all ultra processed stuff.
They have devices now. Food, if you call them food. They're like those little things you used to get at McDonald's, those little hot apple pie things, but they're in stick form. And you just literally dump them all out. They're pre-packaged, but you don't take them out of the package. You just put the whole thing in the oven.
Ew.
Plastic and all. I'm not kidding. You take it out and you serve it.
Ew.
Yeah, it's gross. And you open it, and I was brave enough to try to taste one morning because I was hungry, and I'm just like, God, I know this is going to be nasty. And sure enough, you bite into it and you taste the plastic. It's like, ugh. Like I'm going to get. This can't be good for you.
Yeah.
Like, we always talk about PFAS nowadays and everything. Like, that cannot be good for you.
And I used to work with a gal, she was the farmer's market manager, and I was the reporter writing the farmer's market story. Her kids went to school in Gearing, and, she didn't think anything of it because she had the nice homemade lunches, and her kids begged her to start making her lunches, and she was like, why? So she went one day because parents can go and eat lunch with their kids, and she's like, oh my God, this is disgusting. And her kid, because her kids were used to, they were a family of little farmers, just in your backyard enough for your family, and that's what they were used to eating, and this was all crap because they were coming home and they're like, I'm hungry. What'd you have for lunch? Nothing, because it was crap.
It's all prepackaged. It's all portioned, and the portions are terrible. They're god awful. Even for, especially, I feel sorry, particularly for elementary students, because at least the high school, they could come and get seconds, but of course you had to have the money to do that. So that was a bit discouraging. But even at the high school, the diet, the whole restrictions, you cannot, if you do anything from scratch, you can't do nothing to season it. I ended up cheating. Some of the best meals that I did were me not paying attention.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, sure, this is only a teaspoon of salt, cup.
Yeah.
Just make the kids happy. And I probably will never get hired for Tahir Sodexo again, so hopefully they hear this.
Yeah.
Fuck the school system. I don't think it's nice. I get the idea that Michelle Obama was trying to do. I get it. But taking the soda machines out of the school, no problem. Didn't have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. Taking everything that makes food good away with it, I had a problem with that.
And there's nothing with, okay, let's have whole wheat pasta than regular pasta, but you also need to be able to season it.
And you couldn't even salt the water of the pasta.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this has to do with Nanci.
Yeah, we got way down a rabbit hole there.
Where did we get onto the school lunches?
Oh, gosh.
we were on the... Okay, so go... Actually, I do know. I'll wrap this back up. So, diets of cops.
Oh,
that
yes.
was what we were talking about, the diets of cops. So, my mom would do something similar. She would have a sandwich, but I mean, like, peanut butter sandwiches. Sandwiches in general aren't good for you. It's carb overload, and you have some chips and salty chips and soda. Mm-hmm. And she lived off of that for years and years and years. And so it wasn't that she never cooked or anything. She did. She cooked plenty of times, but when it came to taking care of herself, she'd take off at 4 a.m. before we wake up.
Yeah, and now she's been at work for 3 hours and she's hungry.
Mm-hmm. So she'll usually go get something.
Yep.
She wasn't much of a donut lover, and back then there wasn't a lot of donut shops.
And to be honest with you, so I grew up in New York where Dunkin' Donuts made everything from scratch, which they don't do anymore. That's a whole other story. But
Dunkin'.
I have never met a cop that, yes, if you offer them a donut, they'll eat a donut. But
that's just like everybody.
Yeah, but everybody does that. I never understood that stereotype because growing up in New York, if I saw somebody that was a cop that was eating, they usually had coffee and a sandwich. I'm like, well, aren't you supposed to have a donut? What?
Although the Simpsons movie was hilarious. They had the donut sale and they had the big cop. It was eating the donuts off of his gun, and the gun went off and missed his head. He's like, "Whoa, that was close!" And he goes right back to eating the donuts.
Oh gosh! And when your mom hears this episode, we're gonna get texts.
You know what's funny is my mom. She was never very shy, to me anyway. As a kid, she needed. I believe she needed to talk to somebody, and all she really had to talk to were her kids. But she was never shy to me about the bad things and the bad attitudes that cops had, and they do. How they would all start getting these very, very jaded attitudes, where it's just everyone's evil, everyone has an agenda, everyone has a gun underneath waiting to pull out. I mean, this really paranoid attitude that gets really, really mean. Mm-hmm. That they just like that, stupid so and so, racial innuendos. Before I came out of the closet yet, and my mom couldn't tell you how many times she's told me, it was like, look at that little fairy, or that cop called this a fairy, or the other F word, or something like that. So it's a real thing. It's that poison she was never shy about.
And you can see that expressed still today when you are mired in one single thing, whether it's good or bad. If that's all you hear, that's all you believe. Yeah. And I see where they fall into it, because cops deal with the worst aspects of society. Yeah.
Soldiers tilted. You know who I've recently got to really understand this kind of brotherhood fraternity ideology that gets really nasty too is the firefighters. Mm-hmm. Orlando. Anyway.
That's my cat Erin. She just
Erin,
tried to hop on the back end of a chair and tipped it over, and now she'll sit on the back of it for hours. I debate whether I should even pick it up, because every day I pick it up 2 or 3 times.
But anyway,
the firefighters.
The firefighters have a very interesting attitude. Mm-hmm. Don't know where it comes from. Don't know. It's very, very macho masculine. And coming in almost, I don't even need this fire suit. Yep. Darn it, they'll just rip off my shirt and go in with this hose, and I'm just going to go for it. And it's like, okay, guys, calm down.
My nephew was a firefighter for a long time, and he walked away because of that attitude. But when we had an issue last fall, and he took care of it in person while I was on the phone, the interaction between him and the cops, because he was talking to the cops, and because it happens in conversation, they're like, oh, you used to be a firefighter, who were you with, da, da, da. Oh, do you know so-and-so, da, da, da. And then there's this change in the way the cops are talking to him and he's talking to the cops that's completely different from the way the three of them were talking to me. Yeah. And it's very, very evident. And
it's just like, whoa, you guys turned good old boy real fast.
And I don't have it happen often to have things to my advantage, but I used it. Yeah. And because it's a small town where my mom was at, I mean, granted, Thompson Ridge is a small town. Circleville is a small town. We're only 90 minutes from New York City. A lot of people may not think small town, but she's a little bit out in the country. Because of that connection, the cops just stepped up patrols at the house because they know the house is empty now, and we're working to get it sold. And basically there was a break-in in the house. And so they didn't have to do that, and they're still doing it 9 months later. So yeah,
they have a. If you ask them, it's like, oh no, that's just our jargon. I'm like, it's like a whole attitude, buddy. It's like it's not just a jargon.
It's your jargon, it's your body language, and it's the way you say it. Mm-hmm. There's a difference there. But to wrap up with Nanci, her family wrote in her obituary, she was an amazingly smart, caring, and giving person, knowing what people needed and enjoyed serving others. She will be greatly missed by all who knew and loved her.
So we'll have to ask. My mom would have had to have known her.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be so surprised if she didn't.
Yeah.
I guess they must have not been bosom pals, I can tell you that, obviously, because I don't know her.
Yeah.
I know many, many officers who are still police officers that I literally grew up with. I mean, they watched me grow up, I should say. Troy Brown, Chris Still, Steve Schneider, Ray Huffman, yada, yada, yada. I can go on and on and on. But those are actually more, I think those are all sheriff's departments. Scottsbluff PD, my mom wasn't ever a part of. She was Gehring, sheriff's, Minutair, Mitchell, Morrill. She was everything but Scottsbluff. So I don't know. I don't know if she knew her, how much they interacted, if they interacted at all. Again, cops are weird that way. We just had a conversation not too long ago about the difference between off-the-beat street cops and state troopers, because they don't interact with each other. Yep. State troopers are kind of their own little world, their own little force with their own little attitude problems. Yeah. So, but that could have also been really from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. It really could have been that because she worked in Gehring, she had no business talking to Scottsbluff officers, so she didn't interact with them. And today they still have some interaction, and I could tell some stories that I've heard off the record of interactions between the two. But sometimes they do. They'll come and help each other. Professionally, they have to get the job done. But when they're off the clock, they're not hanging out with each other. You don't go to the Scottsbluff officers' family picnics. You go to the Gehring officers' family picnics. I mean, that's just the way it was. Yeah. So I'm sure she knew of her, but maybe didn't know her. So that's it for Nanci. And I chose Nanci because I was doing I'm still working on the agate thing. I want to have that completed before we start it, so that I know that where it's going. And I just happened to stumble across a headline. You do searches online, and you've got 15 results. So you do searches for books, and you got 15 results. 13 of them are about books. One is about sale on tacos, and then another one is Target sells white bed sheets. Like nothing related. And that I was looking for stuff on the Demonelix at Agate. And you got to this.
And the
So I hope you guys all enjoyed that.
yeah. So I got long-term cop retires.
This is your Amazon shopping list for the day. Worth of information.
So that's how I came across her. I did not know anything about her till, like a week or so ago.
Her name is definitely familiar in my mind because she was obviously, somewhat of a legend as an officer here. So, but other than that, don't know her. Never met her.
So I was just like, here you go.
Oh, what's really sad is I don't have a face with a name. I can't even picture what she looked like. I can't even picture what her hair color was. I can't picture any of her. So that's what's strange. It makes me think that, my mom just
might have mentioned her. Yeah.
Crossed paths too much with her. And that's what it was.
So that's Nancy. Come back next time. We'll be going a little farther back in the past for next week's episode. I'm not going to spoil it so that you come back. But for now, I'm Irene.
And I'm Connor.
And this is Storytelling on the Plains.